Good morning. It is a Monday morning mental toughness. Hey, look, I got some alliteration there. Today I think we're on number 27. Is that where you think we are?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Great. So champions embrace conflict for growth. Well, last week, let's talk about that first. Professional performers don't require immediate compensation, and this was like, am I more interested in pleasure or gratification? That was our action step. And what are you looking for in the long term versus the instant pleasure that you can get from something right now? Did anybody have anything they wanted to share about that?
Well, long term, slow and steady wins the race.
Mhm.
However, at the beginning of that it says every effort performed with good intention yields some form of compensation at some point. People become champions by perfecting their competencies until other people label them champion. So maybe slow and steady isn't the thing. Maybe we should
Maybe it
step it
doesn't
up.
have to be slow. Maybe it's just steady. Yeah, no, I like that because I do think that sometimes we do put the requirement of slow on when really it's just the consistency that really makes a difference. And I like also that every act that is done intentionally yields some sort of compensation, even if it's long term and you don't know. But I think that that goes both ways, right? Because if you're consistently less than champion, right? If you're consistently not like less than champion, but like less than like you're not if you're consistently inconsistent, that's really what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
say. Right? If that's your habit of being consistently inconsistent, then that's going to yield results as well. And that reminds me of Jeff forgot his last name's book, The Slight Edge.
Oh,
Because he says, there's things that are easy to do and they're easy not to do. And they're almost just as easy to do as they are to not do. Like they're not hard to do,
right.
but it's the consistency that over time makes the difference, that slight edge that changes things. So and that does make me think, even with the Miracle Morning app that a lot of us have been using and how um so I think I'm on day 78 today with the Miracle Morning, and I did wake up and I did not immediately like I my alarm went off and then I laid there and then I finally got up when my second alarm went off and then I got dressed and then I laid there and like I mean that's not typically my habit, but it has been for the last few weeks just because I haven't been feeling as well. But I think having the consistency of knowing that at least I'm going to read, that's been kind of my bottom line, lowest level of the Miracle Morning. And so that's what's kept me with the streak is because at least I'm going to read. I'm going to read something, whether it's an audiobook or whether I read something physical in my hands or we're reading this book. If I read any amount of anything, I count it, and that is good enough to be like a streak creator. So, but the thing that I find is that my desire, um, because I'm, kind of skating along the bottom, but I'm skating along the bottom, and the bottom is different than the bottom I was skating along before. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
anyway, so yeah, so keep going because you everything, it does yield results.
Yeah, I
So,
find it interesting if you just check off one thing, it's like, woohoo, you've done it.
right? Right? And you have that feeling of almost relief, like it's stress relieving to just be like, I did that one thing and that's been another piece with the Miracle Morning is like if I do my Miracle Morning, I consider myself a success for the day. And I get a
Love
lot
it.
more done. So because I don't have all this, additional pressure of like, you're not performing. So, okay. Well, now let's move on to number 27. Tim, did you have anything else you wanted to add about immediate compensation or versus long-term thinking?
Well, I always say, make this. You can make decisions to win the battle, or you make decisions to win the war. And I think the long
Mm,
term consistency is more about winning the whole war instead of just winning a single battle.
Yeah. No, I think
So,
that's really smart too. And I think with different health conditions and things that sometimes winning the war, losing the battle and winning the war is, I think with parenting, I mean, there's a lot of places where that's applicable, where you feel like you're probably losing the battle, but long term, you're digging in and winning the war. So good point. Really good point. Okay, let's do number 27. Champions embrace conflict for growth. Average performers will do almost anything to avoid conflict. World-class performers not only welcome it, but embrace it. Amateurs drive their approach from an emotional response that comes from fear of suffering, a bruised ego. Because average people would rather be accepted by others than realize a superior solution to a problem. Conflict represents a serious emotional threat to fragile constitutions. The great ones see conflict not as a threat, but as an opportunity to gain a three-dimensional perspective on a problem. The pros operate at a higher level of consciousness and they don't care who gets the credit for solving the problem. Logic dictates their decisions and opens their minds to the possibility that the opposition might be right. Champions see conflict as a healthy function of checks and balances in an organization. Dictatorships and organizations which suppress conflict are too tightly bound to allow opportunities for growth. Organizations which welcome or embrace conflict are destined to evolve exponentially from the combined brain power of the group. That's really powerful, isn't it?
yeah.
Dictatorships and organizations which suppress conflict are too tightly bound to allow opportunities for growth. There's only one way to do it. Mm.
Mm,
Yeah. Okay,
yep.
quote from Robert Townsend, former CEO at Avis Rent-A-Car. He said, "A good manager doesn't try to eliminate conflict. He tries to keep it from wasting the energies of his people. If you're the boss and your people fight you openly when they think you're wrong, that's healthy."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
I avoid conflict in any way I can. So that's something to
Mm,
work on.
something to think about, right? Here's a critical thinking question to ask about. Am I emotionally addicted to the approval of others? If your
Mm,
answer is yes, make a commitment to break this addiction immediately.
there it is.
Way easier said than done, right? Way easier said than done. And yet it really is. He talks about it in other places in this book. He says it's the most debilitating addiction is this addiction to the approval of others. I saw this meme, about people pleasers, and it just went right along with this. It said something like people pleasers are really not about pleasing other people. It's about avoiding their own feelings of shame or worthlessness or all these other pieces that they've tied to that conflict with another person. So it really isn't, it has nothing to do with the other person. It has everything to do with just trying to keep their own our own selves from feeling uncomfortable. And I think being able to embrace that discomfort in a way that is, I mean, yes, acknowledging, right? Discomfort of conflict is very uncomfortable. Um, but I think also it's just like, I know I gave myself an affirmation a few years ago and it helped me so much. I think I said it probably for almost a whole year, which is my opinion matters to me. And it was just me trying to be okay with the fact that I sometimes feel very differently than the other people in my life. And that my opinion is still valid to me. That I don't have to put it away just because everybody is uncomfortable with whatever my opinion is, or because they don't like it, or because they think I should be more fill in the blank. Um, and I think this is true, and I do think that this boils down to a lot of our health conditions and a lot of everything else is like all of this internal focus of trying to avoid conflict, trying to not be a burden, trying to not be in the way, trying to not be a problem, trying to solve the problems, trying to lift someone else's burdens because that's what we think that we're supposed to be doing. And those things are good, but it's not, I mean, that's really not the purpose of our own life. And I think being able to just kind of sit there and consider, like, where are we? You know, where am I? Am I more concerned about your opinion of me than I am about my opinion of me? Because if I am, that's going to make me sick in a lot of ways. So,
Be your own person, huh?
yeah, 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 I think so. Anybody else want to add anything before we wrap it up? Definitely some food for thought.
For sure.
David Gaucher, let's see, what was his last name? Mont sent me his book, the first step to mastery.
I was gonna say there was a way that was differently said that Mont told you about, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Right.
he said, I think he called it Poto. Dang it. What did he say?
What's the book called?
I think it's called The First Step. Hold on, I'm almost there. The First Rule of Mastery by Michael Gervais. And he called it, I don't know if I can find it, something about the opinions of others, but I thought it was Poto, but it was like, or Fopo, maybe. Maybe it wasn't key, fear of opinions of others. That's a lot of foo right there. I think there's another another word
No,
there
but
somewhere that
it was something like that, honey. I think you're close on to it. I thought
yeah,
it was
because it did make me think about this book with Steve Siebold and how he talks about this, being getting yourself unaddicted, right? Not addicted to the opinion, to the approval approval of others. Yeah, as the most debilitating addiction. And so the first step to mastery is apparently, and he's got a whole book about it, and I haven't read it yet, but my son has recommended it, and also his podcasts multiple times. So Michael Gervais, I'll spell his last name so you can look him up. Gervais. And you can look up his podcast as well. Um, Mott told me particularly he loved the one about him talking with his mentor, something about his mentor that he had done recently. And so just really, really good. But it's the same idea of, like, you're overcoming this idea that you have to please everyone else and be okay with the fact that that's going to create conflict.
yeah.
Because if you're not in charge of your life, somebody else wants to be, guaranteed. And that's going to be conflict right there, because, like, I mean, you get to decide that that's conflict, and you want to decide that that's conflict because you should be the one that's in charge of your own life, and it's worth fighting for. I think that's really the important piece to recognize, is like, it is worth fighting for your own life and your own freedom and your own ability to choose how you're going to direct your life, and not just sit there and take it in from everybody else and do what you're supposed to do, right?
Goes right along with retirement, newly retirement,
Yes,
right?
right.
Deciding, taking
Right.
charge.
And decide, right? Decide, the root of that is side, which is to cut off or kill. And when you make a decision, you are actually cutting off your other options, and you're saying, this is what I'm going to do. But it is hard. It's really hard because people, especially if you're not one who typically likes to embrace conflict, or even if you are, I mean, I tend to be more of a fighter myself. Um, but even so, it gives me a lot of heartache when people are like, why are you so mean? Why are you so, why is everything a fight to you? I'm like, why is everything a fight to me? What do you think about that?
Uh,
But you have to wonder also, like, why does it matter so much to you what I choose, and how, and the reason is because I'm also very accommodating. at the same time as I'm a fighter, which makes a lot of conflict in my life. Because I'm very accommodating. So I'll do as much as I can to make you feel comfortable and happy or whatever until I can't anymore. And then that might make you mad.
That whole thing is a conflict.
I know, right?
Inner turmoil in a big way.
Yep. So let's go back to, miracle morning and silence and meditation and getting clear about like, who am I? What do I stand for? My opinion matters to me, and figure out, what things really, like, what am I willing to fight for? What am I okay with you being mad about? That was another thing on the people pleasers, is like we're really all about, as people pleasers, we're really all about managing or controlling another person's view of
Mm,
us.
wow.
And that was, I mean, when I read that, I was like, that is true. That's truth right there, because I'm trying to get somebody else to stop being mad at me.
Wow.
I could
Wow.
just be okay with them being mad at me and just be like, sorry, you're mad at me. Let me know when you're not anymore. We'll go to lunch.
Wow. Interesting thought.
No, right? Cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, these are some great thoughts. If you're catching the replay, give us some of your thoughts, your comments down below. We would love to hear your input on this topic about avoiding conflict, being addicted to the opinions of others, and etc. So, yeah, please share with us, and everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.